The year is 2003. Arnold Schwarzenegger...
Yes, Chris.
The year is 2003. Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California, The Cat in the Hat was released, and ridiculously oversized clothing was in full force in seemingly every single music video ever. The PS2 was hitting its stride after being released 2 years prior, and EA were not actually the super evil corporation that they're made out to be today. In fact, they were focused on making games that actually had a level of enjoyment and depth that's rarely seen in today's titles, whilst also helping give knowledge of a sport for people that decided to jump in and explore it for the first time, providing ridiculously over-the-top action and providing genuine basketball knowledge in the form of then current players and legends. This is NBA Street Vol. 2. Not much was known about the development of the game, as it all seems to be quite secretive from EA development back then, but the art style implemented by lead game designer and lead artist Kurt Gibbons helped make this game look completely different to a typical sports game.
The characters have a rendering system. It's completely new. We're calling it street shading. It's this lush, rich, juicy way that represents the characters. It's not photoreal, it's not toon shaded, it's this own new thing that just has the characters look so cool that they pop from the court.
Everything looked simplistic, which lent itself perfectly to the control scheme in that it was also simplistic, so casual players and basketball experts could pick it up just the same. Any fan of basketball or casual gamer who isn't necessarily sold on the complexities of your average NBA simulation find plenty to love here. EA, more specifically EA Sports, more specifically EA Canada, were creating titles based around simulations such as the ongoing FIFA, NHL and NBA series, and when they were tasked with making a sports game with the main draw being ridiculously over the top out of this world gameplay, they were paired up with EA Sports. The first game EA released, NBA Street, was fairly well received and a good start for the franchise, but with their second effort, they were determined to make it bigger and better than its predecessor.
We met our expectations of keeping what's great about Street 1, but then also putting in innovative features and great new style in the product that makes it NBA Street Vol. 2.
The concept of NBA Street was based on Streetball. And holy shit was this thing big back in the day. Specifically the antics of And One, a streetball team that comprises of people with ridiculous athletic ability. Look at this guy. They provided some of the most entertaining clips of basketball, the main goal being to completely embarrass your opponent, and it created moments that circulated around the internet via the use of LimeWire at the time, more specifically this clip. However, if the And One team lost the game, one of the losing players would be left in the city they were defeated in, and a person on the winning team would come and take their... Holy shit, is that... they would come and take their place? There's no way that's true.
Do you have any spare change? I'll ball for money.
This concept will be utilized in one of the game modes, but more about that later. The creative freedom would have been restricted in the confines of an official NBA court, but on the streets, there were no rules. The ability to play well was completely determined on how imaginative you were, and this fit perfectly into this game. It wasn't how many you scored, it was how you scored which mattered more.
Big Shaq, racking up the puntos.
And this was reflected in the control scheme and the mechanics of the game. It's fairly simplistic, run-of-the-mill control scheme for a basketball game. On offense, it's X to pass, circle to shoot, triangle to jump, and square to perform tricks. But the most interesting thing is that all the shoulder buttons were used as turbo, and turbo's used not only to run faster, but perform multiple tricks or dunks, depending on what you press, increasing in difficulty the more buttons you press down. This is what created depth in a relatively simplistic control scheme that was rarely boring due to doing crazy shit like this. It helped casual players play this as a fun game and rewarded more hardcore players by showing them new animations and rewarding the player when they experimented with the mechanics they had, let alone that they had countless unlockables, including player cards, animations, courts, videos, you name it, they had it hidden, and there was no DLC either, so it's an absolute bonus. It was a complete game, and what more can you ask for? The key selling point of this game was the Game Breaker system, a mechanic utilized in mostly all EA Sports big games in some way or another. Some may have a different name, but they all featured some game-altering event. NBA Street was no exception. It created the game breaker mechanic. After the bar was filled, you had a choice. Use a level 1 game breaker to gain a small advantage over your opponent, or pocket... Fuck me, I need some water. Or pocket it and build another to release an unprecedented level 2 game breaker. The main difference was the level 2 breaker had the ability to end friendships. Here's a couple more things that will end friendships. This Uno card. Landing on a hotel in Monopoly. Sleeping with your best friend's girlfriend at the time. I don't forget these things, Phil. Go fuck yourself. You knew from the moment you heard the music play, when the game started to display all its licenses, the game felt different compared to the bland run-of-the-mill titles that were released at the time. The music, the clothes, the names of the moves, the famous locations that helped basketball become what it was back then. Fictional street legends were entwined with current legends, as EA Sports were focused on building a universe of basketball separate to the one you already know. See, you know Shaquille O'Neal, but you don't know Shaq jumping 20 feet in the air, ready to throw down the biggest slam dunk of all time that would end all world wars at once. Whilst listening to the commentary of this over-ecstatic Mexican guy, Bobito Garcia, who provided a hugely enthusiastic vocal contribution, adding another dimension to the overall aesthetic, and the music by Just Blaze felt as though this game could have been happening at a park near you. The whole audio and sound really created a sense of atmosphere that didn't really exist in sports games at the time. It felt recreational, like you were playing in the park with a couple of friends. Even the menus were fun to navigate, like the sound effects going through. You had a million cheat codes to try that were available to unlock in the menu screens when you were setting up a Play Now game. Everything just sounded fun all the time. But what really cemented it as a great game was the game mode.
I'm gonna get a better view of basketball from this very game.
Yeah, there was your standard pickup game which had its own personal save profile and tracked your wins and losses against the CPU, or another player with 30 licensed teams to pick from, not including the legends and the all-star teams. You can also make a team full of Jordans, but how is that fair on anyone to face? I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. There's the NBA Challenge, a region-based variant of the game as you start in one location, beat all the teams in the area, unlocking other regions until you've beaten all the teams in every region. But the best game mode, for me personally, was Be a Legend mode, the story mode of the game. You create a fully customizable character and attempt to conquer the courts with him/her. You start out with low stats and a weak-ass team, but as you play and you win, you have the opportunity to add better players to your team and increase skill points. Like the one thing I was saying before, see, that's payoff. See, I set something up at the start and I followed through with it. You gotta trust me with these things, guys. Winning games and tournaments unlocks new courts to play on. Throughout the Be a Legend mode, you play NBA players and a different street legend, which are in huge abundance. I mean, look at these guys. Because of the game's mass appeal, it would go on to receive critical acclaim, selling 1.5 million copies across the PS2, GameCube and Xbox, sitting at number 11 of one of the best games in 2003. Its sequel, NBA Street V3, was released 2 years later, which also received critical acclaim, building on an already stellar game mechanic and graphical improvements were on top of that. It cemented the NBA Street franchise as a truly successful one. Home Court, the game after V3, was released 2 years after on the Xbox 360, and tried to replace the mechanics that made the series what it was, with photorealistic players, which resulted in good reviews, but was a step down compared to the two previous iterations, and for some reason, this was the last game in the series, with no real reasoning as to why the franchise, along with EA Sports Big, just disappeared. And so did the over-the-top sports game genre with it. If you have time to dust off the PS2 and give yourself not only the feeling of nostalgia, but the enjoyment of a great game, pick it up as quick as you can and play that shit to death, man.